in the presence of greatness.
Am I?
It's incredible to actually have you at the Norway conference as well. So Ivor, please give us your take on what you've seen so far with the conference.
It's been a good one. I think this is my 4th or 5th Norway conference. There's a little bit of teething trouble. It's an interesting exercise from a sort of CSI purpose. That over the last 3 or 4 years at the same location, they really knew what they were doing. They really got everything smoothed down. They're paying a penalty for success, and they've had to find somewhere bigger. And there's clearly some issues in the new structure that will be better next year, I'm sure.
I'm sure they will be.
Hope to come back and find out.
Yes.
But it's been good, some interesting talks it's been on. And the other thing that I think is really interesting about it from a sort of service management perspective is that other conferences, somebody thinks about the program, somebody else thinks about entertainment, somebody thinks about issues. The very silos that we say you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
You get the impression at Norway that actually somebody thinks about the whole package in the first place.
Yes.
And thinks that it's got to be a bit fun, it's got to be a bit of time, it's got to be this, it's got to be the other things. And so it's perhaps the only service management conference that's been designed rather than glued together from pieces.
That's a really interesting point.
It is. It's a really holistic, well-shaped event right from start to finish. It really has been a pleasure being here.
Yeah, the bazaar was particularly
Yes, that is
interesting for me.
amazing.
And we were talking earlier on today. The presenters were all good, but they were not the reason the bazaar was good.
Yes.
The reason the bazaar was good was because of who was there. Now there's an interesting challenge there about do you actually select who your your delegates are? Because if you just taken maybe 45, 50 people or so at the bazaar, if you just plucked 50 people at random from the whole conference, you probably wouldn't have got the same value out of it. So there's an interesting bit of research to go on there, I think,
Yeah,
about keeping the value of it.
We were talking with one of our previous guests about the fact that one of the sessions you were in, there were 4 ITIL authors in the same room.
Yes, indeed.
Discussing the merits of service portfolios and the like.
That was not the best of them, because unfortunately you picked 4 ITIL authors who don't agree with each other. So that may have been some entertaining. The one that I thought was best was my time with Greg on the change management one.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting, and it was really powerful because Greg had no interest in running it. I mean, he really did want you to just sit back and say, what can we gather?
Yes.
So he gets the least ego of a presenter award, as far as I'm concerned.
He was really good.
It's coming to the point of a change that has happened with you, being with IBM, and then now moving to ServiceNow. How has been the transition? What's the new role?
It's interesting. Well, it's I don't want to say too much about where I've come from, because lawyers may be listening.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be actually involved in something happening, and it's nice to be involved in a company that's on the way up.
Right.
I still got to get settled in, and it is a very different organisation.
You've only been there a matter of weeks now.
Yeah, just about 4 or 5 weeks. And it's interesting the things you find. I was working for a multinational global company before. ServiceNow is present all around the world, but it's interesting, its character is still very much a Californian company.
Right.
And that's an interesting challenge. It's by no means a bad thing, but it means it goes at a speed that is unusual. So, but yeah, I'm really interested in being product manager because I see a big part of my role is to get out and talk with our customers, which will be nice. And the questions that I want to ask them, I think, are really interesting questions. Actually, they're very easy questions.
Yes.
The answer is somewhat more complicated. Is where do you think we should be going over the next 2 years? And more crucially, where do you think you will be in the next 2 years so that we could be there first? And that, as I say, very easy questions, but
But it's a
difficult
real
answers.
partnership question.
Yeah,
though,
no, well,
isn't
that's
it?
exactly what we want to do. Yeah.
Because how can you, if you don't know where they're going, then how can you prep yourself to be there for them and with them on that journey?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's exactly right. And the biggest thing that I'm really pleased about is that I've been doing service management for a long time, probably 30 years at least. I've been doing IT for less than that.
Yes.
So I came into this business as a service manager who then accidentally got into IT and stayed because you got paid an extra allowance for being in IT. But at heart, I was much more interested in holistic service management. And as you'll have seen from the service management stands and literature, it's now IT with a red cross through it. We're now in the service management business. And to me, this feels like coming home again after 30 years, about having that broader perspective, because I've never understood what was different about IT.
I particularly like some of the themes that were coming out around the evolving nature of our roles in IT. One of the things that came across, and I do believe it must have been in David Cannon's session, I think, where we're not IT roles in IT, we're IT within business environment, and our roles and the way we approach what we're doing needs to be as we are part of the business, not IT.
But actually, I've never not felt part of the business, but I've always been a bit weird about it. There's some interesting initiatives coming up. I mean, things like IT for IT, about gluing IT service management into IT, which is fine and needs doing, but it's not me because I'm not an IT person. I'm really interested in service management as an entity, and maybe there's IT goes in that, but service management's not about IT. Service management's been around forever, and about coordinating different services together. There's real potential. I mean, the blog that I've written for all things ITSM,
Which has
I'm
been
really
getting
pleased.
some really good feedback on.
Good. I'm very pleased with that blog because it makes the point that we had to be good in IT in terms of service management. We had to invent all sorts of processes, primarily because we were so bad.
Yes.
And to say you had to apply the patch where the pain was. But that's over, and we've now got processes of service management that can roll out in a broader perspective. And because IT is everywhere, service management is everywhere. I think there's real potential to move away from IT. And when we stop thinking ourselves in service management as IT people, we'll start thinking as people delivering services and then coordinating those services and then delivering a better product. At the moment, we put walls around the IT service and we don't coordinate with other service parts of an organisation.
It's really got to the stage where, IT is so important that it isn't anymore.
Yes, absolutely.
It just doesn't matter anymore. IT is a given. It's in every service. I've got friends who milk cows. Cow's got a chip as it walks into the shed. It's scanned.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an IT service. Their milking shed is an IT service.
I think the maturity of IT in that respect is important because IT is now two completely separate things, but we don't see them. We need geeks.
Yes.
We need
You always need them.
we need R&D people doing clever things with data in 3 dimensions on chips. We need programmers who can do really clever things with embedded software and all the rest of it. That goes on, that's researched. Applying that is now a completely different skill and completely different mindset. And we're not yet separated those two parts of IT. And I see that that's the role that the service management people, not IT service management, but service management people going forward, one of the big responsibilities and success stories will be separating those roles out. The same way as we have a massive separation now between people who do engineering research.
Yes.
Volkswagen have done some amazing stuff. Borg Warner have produced this incredible gearbox. I've just bought one with it, the DSG gearbox. And whatnot. It's amazing. The technology is amazing. But it's not sold on the basis of how clever it is.
No.
It's sold on the basis of how smooth an automatic gearbox it is and how it saves fuel. And that's the separation we need in the broader perspective.
The cleverness doesn't matter as long as it gets the job done.
Yes, absolutely.
So finally, one question, because we've kind of considered time. You did participate as part of Knowledge Cafes today. How was the experience, and what was your take on the...
I think that was great, and I think one of the thoughts I came away with it from was, why would anybody need more than 8 minutes to say something important?
Yes. I mean, our speakers all got through a lot of information in that 8 minutes, and it was really well condensed.
I think there's and we've seen this before in Australia a few years back in this issue, and filling up 35 minutes and 40 minutes is not difficult, but
there's a lot of waffle in there.
There's a lot of detail that some people want to go into and some people don't. I think there's a massive benefit, maybe a combination of saying, here are these 10, and Australia did something similar to that. These 10 people will talk to you for 8 minutes.
Yes.
If any of them's really exciting, you can talk to them again for an hour later.
Yeah.
Right.
But not everybody wants the detail of everything.
Right.
But I think this amazing
Yeah.
how much power and knowledge and thought you can get into an
Yes.
8-minute session.
Yeah, no, there is. It was. I mean, I really enjoyed. I mean, it was. It had a few creases that need to be ironed out, but I actually think
The format.
the format
I
was
think.
great, and the quality of
Yeah.
those
Well,
brief presentations was very good.
I was pleased with it because I didn't do any preparation for it
Yeah.
whatsoever, and that probably makes it better.
Yeah, I actually think you're right when
Well,
you're
again,
when you're
no
speaking
slides.
naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, Ivor. It's been always a delight to have you. You have
Yes.
always
Thank
tons
you.
of information that we could extract at one of time, but
Yes, we need to have you back on another podcast very soon.
Anytime, my dear,
because,
anytime.
you've got an awful lot of knowledge of the industry
the wisdom.
and you've got information that,
You
that other people
just,
don't have.
You just have to be here a long time without dying yet.
right.
Pleasure as always, Ivor.
Thank
We will
you
talk
very
to you again
much.
very soon.
Thank you very much.
For this segment, we have our Norwegian speakers and our famous Sophie. So we're almost on the fag end of the conference, and we're quite eager to understand your perspectives of this conference. And we heard a lot about your presentation as well, so we wanted to get your insights as to how did it go and what's your perspective. So probably you could introduce ourselves to the team and see what you've been doing.
Yeah, well, I'm working for Scandinavian Airlines as a director in communications.
Right.
I've been in the airlines for, well, all my life, really. Started to loading baggage, and I've been in all positions,
Right.
nearly, except for flying, and God forbid. Well, my experience is quite broadly, but I've been working with communications for the last 8 years, and during that time we've had crisis that I have been,
The war stories, isn't it?
yeah.
So you have lots of war stories then to use in your presentation, couldn't you?
Well, yes, and it's not fun for me, but it's fun for them.
So how did you find the experience of being a speaker at this conference?
I find it very interesting because I attended the local one in Trondheim last year, and in addition to being there presenting the Scandinavian story,
I also have to tell them how we met you. We met him at an Iron Maiden concert in
oh
Japan.
yeah,
And we booked him over at 3 a.m.
because of my dancing.
So were you there in yesterday's dance when I think it was a gala dinner with dance?
Last night?
Yeah.
Well, I attended the fabulous dinner, and I had the pleasure of do some moves together with Kevin Keegan,
That's
the legend.
That's the legend. Right?
It will be soon on the internet, social
okay.
media.
I'm
stuff.
sure it will be.
No, Kevin.
Yeah.
I should.
So what was your presentation today? And
My story is that when you're having a crisis, don't waste it.
yeah.
Use the crisis for change, and I tell you, we've been through crisis. It starts with a cultural crisis. Technical crisis is one thing.
Yeah.
A cultural one is completely different. And I'm telling that story because there's been some merging with other airlines during the years, and we also had the ash crisis
Yes.
Yeah.
some years ago,
Yeah.
which stopped traffic,
Yeah.
and we had financial crisis, and we've had this enormous change in our company because of this. We've gone from 3,500 administrative positions in Norway 10 years ago down to 70 now,
Wow.
which is an enormous change.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we
In
are
a
flying
very
more
short
passengers, we are
space.
producing more. And how can we do that? That's because of, well, there's been some elements of outsourcing, of course, but we can do that using lean
Right.
principles among them.
Yeah.
Do the right things.
Yes.
I think one of the interesting things I want to bring in from a Norway perspective is the first time I've had practitioners actually walking the talk, so delightful to watch all these presentations because it's not flashy presentations. They're just talking a very simple language that people could consume and put it into workplace.
And hearing their stories is fabulous. The experiences are really worthwhile because you know they're real. So
Yes.
the lessons that you get from
Yeah.
those case study presentations, it's real lesson that you know if they can, so can we.
There's no unicorn presentations, and people want to be attached. So they say, we are not alone. We have someone who could share our story. I mean, that's quite important because such a conference is not about just having fun or learning, but I want to use that one step. I really appreciate Sigma's that key message.
Yes.
When she came out for the keynote, I mean after the keynote, to set the context is, if I'm able to do one step in my workplace, I think that is a value that I get from this conference.
And we search quite we have searched all over the world for
Yeah.
for
Yeah, I was
our
going to say, you know, what was your requirement when you were looking for your speakers? What were you really looking for?
we wanted to have the practitioners. We have looked all over them, and we have reached out to, like, we have used our extended network to find them, and we have literally been looking for the really like key takeaway is value, and go home and do that. In addition to our, like, let's say, experts that come, the consultants that come. So I think the most important thing is the mix with practitioners and the consultants and the experts. That you sort of get the theory from the really from the consultants, and then you go afterwards. You go and listen to. For example, if you attended David Cannon yesterday, and then you went to Nelly today.
Yeah.
And that is like, yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
And
I wanted to write it in the program that you should attend, but you can't do that.
It was very interesting because David Cannon was attending Nelly's session on service portfolio management, and Nelly was a little nervous because she said, did I say anything wrong in the way, because you have an author in front of you? And he said, yes, but you did much, much better than what I wrote in the book. I think that was the best compliment.
But it's so funny to have to experience that today. That is one of the things that I'm really proud of, that me and Dagfinn achieved with this conference is the great mix.
Yeah, you've got a really fantastic mix of different levels and different topics, and as you said, that mixture of practical experience with some fantastic theoretical knowledge of what the processes are, but then to actually be able to see people like David talking about the process, and then seeing someone else explain how it actually happens in real life is just, that's, I think every conference should aspire to have that mix.
So we must say that we own Christian Nissen. A big thank you.
Yes.
Big hug as well.
Yeah, because he was the one that gave us the tips about Nelly when we were at the service bazaar at CFN People's 10th anniversary.
Yes.
So
And was there any particular sessions that you may have already seen or that were a highlight for you?
Well, I haven't attended the whole conference because I've been doing work for my, the press and coming up with some financial results today. But I've seen through it, and I've found a lot of interesting topics, which is relevant for us as well. And we've gone from one IT company now to another one, and we are really seeing some challenges to that, and too many of us seem to blame the new company. But the thing is that we have to pick up the mirror, because we don't order the right things. We expect them to come, and we have to change culture there.
I have one goal, and that's your CEO be here next year.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's good.
I'm going to hunt you down until he's here.
But it's nice to see that. Airlines is relevant to so many.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody has an experience, and
Well, that's how most of us got here, was through
yeah,
airline.
that's why it's an important part of the infrastructure, like
Yes.
IT
And
technology
few
is.
people have stood here because of the Norwegian strike.
Yeah.
So
So
It makes a huge
Kirsty
business
spoke
impact.
today.
I had-
Kirsty
Yeah.
spoke
Kirsty,
today.
yeah, Kirsty.
I spoke today
Yeah, spoke
because
today
someone
because
else
the
couldn't
speaker
use
couldn't
it.
because
do
of that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
It was put me under great stress, but that's fine.
That's so
Well, do you have any other questions you would like
Now,
to ask?
we would love to hear you
Yeah.
more, but
Yeah.
conscious of the time, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for coming.
Yes,
In
thank
spite
you
of
so
the
much.
schedule, I know
Pleasure
it's
being
pretty tight, and we said we couldn't
Yes.
hold you. Next year, that we block you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pleasure being here, and I might attend the conference next time. And
Yes.
listen to
Oh,
it.
that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Yes, that would be good.
That was lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you.
Wish you well with your voice for
Ah.
your speech. And,
Oh, thank you, thank you.
And good luck with the results as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So welcome, ladies.
you.
It's
Thank you.
lovely to have
Thank
you.
I'm,
you.
I'm the only odd man out. It looks to be all the ladies here.
oh, you're feeling a bit lucky now. Yes.
Okay. Can we just give us a brief introduction for the audience so they know who they're talking to?
Yeah, my name is quite long though.
Yes.
Signe Marie Hernes Bjerke. I have been chair of the ITSM Norway chapter for 2 years now, but been in a board since I was part of the group starting up in 2003, so been on the board quite a long time.
And I've had the pleasure of working with you
Yeah,
for a lot of years on
yes,
publication work
actually,
for
been
international.
involved in
so-
ITIL since
Yes.
I attended my first ITIL training in 1999, and after that it's kind of
Yes.
I've been a lot of work and engagement within IT service management in general.
Yes, and my name is Nelle Schaefowski, and I come from a Danish IT supplier company called NNIT. And I work in a process design team. I work with the implementation of service management processes. I go from, I'm sort of has a process owner role, and we started with the service portfolio management that I told you about earlier today, and then we went on to service catalog management, and once we had that going, we went on to request catalog and service request management. That's my current project right now.
Well, I'd have to say your talk today
Yeah.
on this and the case study, it was really well attended.
Thank you.
But in addition, wow, all those questions you had at the
Yeah,
end
yeah.
as well. They want more from you.
Yeah, and it's you're not able to tell the full story. You have 30 minutes and you have 20 slides, and so you have to tell the topics. But there was so much more that I couldn't tell. I mean, during such a big project, you have your ups and downs.
Yeah.
You do your mistakes, and then you go back and restructure and proceed. But that was what I could
Right.
put into to my session.
Yeah. So Sigma, considering this ITSMf Norway conference, and we all know that it is one of the best conferences in the world. I mean,
Well, they keep telling
they
us.
keep
Yes.
telling us, yeah?
Yeah.
So one of the things we wanted to do was an acid test, come there and see whether it's really the best conference, I would say that, it's just only improved even more. But tell me, how long does it take to arrange this kind of a conference? What's the kind of work that is involved? How did you plan the whole session? What's been your experience in organizing such a massive conference?
Oh, when it comes to how long it takes, it's kind of, we start as soon as one conference is over, we start this, what the next
Planning
time?
next year.
It's that engagement that has
Yes.
been since the very beginning. And I think it's also, it's a lot of volunteers, and you can imagine they have full-time work at the, kind of beside the committee work.
Right.
And so I think that they are passionate about it, and we also have so much fun together creating it. And I think also one of the secrets that we always kind of, it's not only putting kind of presentations together, but we have from the very beginning had this kind of framework, this package. So the title has been, we have always, since the second conference, the second. It has been Queen topic with it's the kind of magic, and behind it is ITIL, or ABBA team with ITIL, the name of the game. And then we have so much creativity around that, kind of having track with the music, financial management, playing money when people come in. We have so much fun, midnight concert with this, and kind of so it's a lot of creativity and just engagement in the group. And we have also had been very focused on kind of, you know, the people that work with it. We want them to come and tell the stories.
I must admit that being my first conference for Norway as well, and in the Nordics, this is my first visit to the Nordics, so it's exciting, is that passion that you're talking about from the volunteers, as we see when we talk to them, registration desk, or it's what's the word I'm looking for? It gets you and it draws you in. So really, well, congratulations to the whole team that has put this together.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
So Sydney, you did a management group of some presentations specifically for management this year?
It was, you are thinking about the panel debate. It was for the participants, but the topic was management. And that's because it always boils down to the people, and the most kind of critical factor for the people to really be engaged in the workplace is that they have the kind of a good relation to the management. And the debate, we had a really famous Hanne Kristin Rode from the police. She was on television all the time when this Utøya incident hit. It's kind of rare. And she had an introduction speech about leadership in a situation of pressure. And that was kind of the start of a debate. How can you really be a leader or manager and kind of have the engagement from the people? So it was about performance management in a way that performance management, manage performance, questioning that, isn't it just for a leader to step a little bit back and let kind of, and it was a really interesting debate after our introduction.
I must admit, I've seen a lot of presentations that actually challenge. The speakers have not been afraid to actually challenge the audience on what they're doing. You did the same in yours too. There was a few comments, and never apologize for challenging. It was wonderful. And it's like, so what have you found in the conference, when the things you've been seeing? What topics have really interested?
I am impressed. It's the first time I'm here in Norway. I've heard about it, and I really am impressed because the only thing that I had at one time 3 sessions, I think I wanted to attend, and I didn't know where to go. So you might consider taking the sessions twice, you know. But other than that, I really liked also the combination of theoretical education and listening to people actually doing the theory. So I really enjoyed being here, and I really have to. I really have to say that you have done a great job arranging all this. It's much more than I could have ever imagined. I was at a pink elephant conference a couple of years ago, and I must say this matches up to that.
Right.
I mean, you had
everything,
and you also had the Las Vegas entertainment package.
It's a great thing.
It's brilliant. I mean, yesterday we were looking at the gala dinner, but prior to that, we had a lot of people who were English speaking, right? I mean, so we were listening to the comedian, and we enjoyed as much as the Norwegians did.
Did you see? I was actually sitting there wanting to capture to tell the people back home that I don't understand a word of Norwegian, but I tell you what, her voice and just her delivery, we were laughing. She had us laughing, and we didn't even understand the joke. It was great.
That's great.
Yeah. How have you found your Norwegian attendees? How have they enjoyed the mix between having both Norwegian and the English sessions?
I think that has been very good. We have always had English sessions, and we have normally it has been kind of one track that
Yes.
the English-speaking people can attend, but we have never had that many international speakers as this year, and so many international delegates as well. And I think it has been really valued because we see that in the field of IT service management is kind of right now. It's so many new ideas coming in, and it's kind of we just need to be part of that.
Yeah, we are part of a really global industry.
Yeah, and what I see is that the Norwegians have really used the opportunity to speak with all the international guests, and I think the international team or speakers has been extremely good to really involve and talk with people. So
that is one of the
think
things.
it works good.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've noticed that out in the the meeting areas and lunch, people will just come and sit down with you and chat, regardless. It doesn't matter if they know you or if you speak the same languages. There's a lot. There's been an awful lot of sharing going on between lots of different cultures, lots of different countries, and really getting to grips with sharing the knowledge that's out there.
You know what I experienced earlier, just right after lunch, we were waiting for the next session, and this guy comes up and introduces himself and said, I've just been listening to your session. Can you please tell me how did you do or how did you design your service manager role? And I thought, well, if you, this is what we want, this network, this ability to ask people outside your organization and get the experience, because then you can take something home and try to see if that fits you as well.
And you know, what a fantastic question, because how did you design your service manager role? That's exactly what Charlie was talking about this morning, that, you know, what our roles in IT are going to be are not what we think they are or what they have been. So that, what a fabulous
it was
validation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very good to be able to just experience or share experiences from one company to the other.
Brilliant. And in fact, the way I was impressed by looking at this when you made that statement that we spend 20,000 hours in implementing service portfolio management, and there's wow, that's a lot of time. But that's the ground reality. I mean, people are looking today at kind of quick fixes. Okay, we get this done, quick done. We have tools and stuff like that. It doesn't work. And what is even more interesting is they use the SharePoint to deliver or manage the service portfolio management. So I tweeted, call for ITSM vendors. There's no tool that actually does justice to service portfolio management. Right? But what's been, I mean, if you could just tell 2 to 3 aspects of your key learnings in the 20,000 hours that you spent, it'll be useful for our viewers to understand the real war story.
Key learnings is to when you educate people into describing their services, into costing their services, or putting their service plans into the portfolio, be very simple in your language. Don't try to introduce a lot of ITIL terms that you know, because they don't know.
Right.
And now I showed you the picture with the kitchen and the restaurant.
Yes.
We used so many effects like that because we wanted people to understand what it was that we were going after. And again, another thing that we also learned was take small steps. Don't go asking 50 departments to do this at the same time. Start with 1 or 2 or 3 and restructure your design before pushing it out to everybody else. And I think because we only had one pilot and they were quite good, they understood the message and could start right away, but then we started with more service lines.
Right.
And we found out that we used too much hours explaining this and redoing their work, and that was because we hadn't been clear in our communication. The task for them were too complex.
Yes.
So simplify everything. Better to show some progress rather to be one big failure.
Yeah.
So and the other learning we had was also if you don't have the backup, not only from management but from the entire organization, this will never succeed.
Yes.
So it has to be stated down into. I mean, we have this yearly target setting for each employee. We actually went in and implemented targets for. Well, you are the service architect for these services. In your measurements for this year, you have to prepare this and this and this. So it was actually down very to each individual employee, and they were allowed to use the money or the hours to do this job. So and if you don't have that kind of backup from the entire organization, you'll never succeed.
Well, I think it's great points as part of learning experiences as to how you do that. And I think the people got a lot of takeaways from this. The most number of tweets that we've had has been with Nelly, right? And what a compliment from David Cannon.
I was really impressed.
Because he meant what he was saying. And we are inspired, Sigma, to have such a kind of a speakers in this kind of vicinity. It's kind of inspiring for all of us to get motivated about this.
You know, there was one really key learning that I took, something that you said, which with the 20,000 hours, because that was a shock statistic. That is the statistic for the conference, 20,000 hours. But what you said immediately after that was that in manufacturing, or if you're building a physical product or a car or this, and it takes 20,000 hours, they don't think this is wrong. They think, well, okay, this is what it takes. Why aren't we thinking the same way about a service? A service is going to take the same time to develop.
And services is our core business. That's our product lines, if you can say so. So that we have to invest in the future, because that's
what you provide.
Exactly. So
that was powerful.
I really like your message that you said before about keeping it simple. I think as IT professionals, we're really good at complicating stuff.
We make it complicated.
But again, when we started portfolio management, we wanted to implement this. We had sort of we didn't start from scratch, because you could actually use the books to get started. And instead of inventing something yourself, so we took what the book said, and then we sort of fitted it to match our organization, because we actually went out to customers, to other businesses in Denmark, also abroad, and asked, do you have any experience with service portfolio management? And we couldn't find anything.
No.
That's why this is so popular today.
So
everybody got it here. If you want to know more about service portfolio management, head to Denmark.
Exactly.
Coming to the conference, and I'm conscious of time, one of the things that I saw, and Mark also mentioned, is the kind of sessions being organized with the kind of space, to do a kind of retrospection and stuff like that. It's been a phenomenally brilliant conference so far, and it only gets better every year as people like old wine, it gets better. But what's your thought as to, because you have seen these conferences happening over year, and we have a huge bunch of international delegates coming across, swarmed with international delegates, What's your thinking about the international delegate community coming here, specifically for this edition of ITSMf Norway conference? What's your take?
What it has given to
Yeah.
us. I think first of all, you bring a lot of the majority of you have had presentations, led sessions, had bazaar. So we have got so much kind of value from that, and in addition, the kind of engagement you show just by being here and being this enthusiastic. It's not strange the Norwegian get kind of, oh wow. That is, it's kind of really inspiring to have you here. And of course the main thing is that we also can use the conference as an arena for the kind of really experts around the world to meet and come together and kind of discuss ideas, agree that we need to improve, agree that the kind of new methods, new way to do things is so it's so important also for the future of IT service management to have arenas where experts can meet and discuss things like this. So it's a lot of
you've had so many industry leaders here
Yeah.
over the last
Absolutely.
3 or 4 days.
It's a light.
It's
it's
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah.
And
It says a lot for your chapter that
Yeah.
the respect
it's
that the
really
global
fun.
community has for ITSMf Norway is pretty
it's
strong.
fun. So
So
You see the
you're
joy.
obviously doing
It's the joy.
you're doing something very
Very
right,
good.
Sigmund.
Yeah.
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 Very
it's that-
infectious.
it's the-
Yeah.
We'll all be here next year again.
Yeah.
that's great.
You
I
can
guess
see
we-
us clearing our calendars right now. Quick, Norway is the only date for this.
Yeah. Well, I guess we probably need to wind up and let you people get back to the
The rest of the
business at hand
conference.
at the end, at the tail end of the conference.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Sigmund.
you.
Lovely to
Thank
see you.
you.
Nice to
Thank
meet you.